Hi, it's the Headless Fly Fisherman. Today I'll be showing you how to tie my double bug. The hook I'm using today is a Tiemco 9395. I tie this in size 6, 8, and occasionally I'll use this 4. And when I'm using a 4, I like this Moonlit hook. This is a big beefy hook, very strong. I like the straight eye for this particular application. Let's go ahead and get started. As you can see, I have some lead wire wrapped on here. This is 10 turns of 020. The positioning of the lead is very critical in getting the fly to fish correctly. So the hook is divided into 2/3, 1/3. The 1/3 is to accommodate the head. Again, the positioning of this is very critical. Thread that I'm using is Unithread 6/0. This is olive. So for the base of our tail, we're going to use some pheasant. Put pheasant pretty much on everything that I possibly can. This is pheasant tail. We're going to tie that about the length of the shank of the hook. And this really serves two purposes. One is to help prop the tail up, and it does help with the wraparound. And the second one, of course, is fish appeal. Had great luck incorporating pheasant tail into a bunch of patterns. And we're going to do a layered tail. And when you're picking your marabou, for the tail we want something that's just a little more wispy. We're not going to put a lot on there. We're going to put this in 2 pieces, and then we're going to sandwich our crystal flash in between that. So I'm just going to take a small clump of that, and I want it just slightly longer than my pheasant tail. Again, this fly construction is all about layering to get optimum motion out of the fly. I'm going to cut that off about the length of my lead so we don't end up with a big bump there. I don't put a lot of flash in this fly. I want it fairly subtle. So I'm just going to put 4 strands of ice dub in there. This crystal flash in there. This fly is going to be black and olive, so this is peacock crystal flash. I want that about the same length as our marabou, maybe a little bit shorter. Doesn't really have to be too critical, the length. And then for our second piece of the tail, we're going to add just a little bit more marabou than the last clump, and we're going to layer this just a little bit short of the first one. Again, you're going to want to use the best quality materials that you can for durability purposes, of course, but that'll also really help with the function of the fly and how it fishes and swims. Okay, we're going to tie in some ribbing. This is ultra wire, small, gold. For the body, we're going to use a dubbed body. And the reason why I like the dub body is it's also going to add a lot of effect to the fly as far as fish appeal goes. But it's also going to allow us to pull that hackle down into the body to protect the stem of that hackle. So this is my go-to dubbing. This is just 60% Angora, and about 40% rabbit. And this is a couple of different colors of Angora. This would be considered like my black. And then just a little pinch of ice dub in there to give it a little bit of flash. That on there. We want this to stop right at the edge of our lead wire. We don't want to go up any further than that because we're going to need that third front of the hook to really accommodate that head of the fly. Oops. Okay, then we're going to take our dubbing tool, brush, high-tech popsicle stick with Velcro on it. And I'm not going to really tease this out. I just want to rough it up. And that'll help draw that hackle down into the body again. Really helps with the durability of the fly. Right. We're going to tie in our hackle for the body ribbing. And you want a really good, strong hackle. These are Metz Super Grizzly Saddles, dyed olive. It's really yanked on that stem to make sure that thing isn't going to break on me, because we're really going to reef on this when we tie this in. Brother, that was great. We're going to use our high-tech dubbing brush, popsicle stick with some Velcro on it there. We're not really going to really tease this out. I just want to open it up a little bit so that hackle will suck down in that body. Because this is black and olive, I'm going to use an olive saddle hackle. And I'm really going to yank on this thing. I want to make sure I got a really good, strong hackle. That's really going to help also with the durability of the fly. This is a Metz. I think they call this their Super Grizzly Saddle. These are pretty high quality feathers. Again, the higher quality feathers that you're going to use, the more durable this fly is going to be. A little bit, I got a little bit of a ball of dubbing there. There we go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do about, it's already broke. I'm going to do about 2 turns before I start palmering this down the body to kind of build up a little bit of a collar there. Space this. Not real close together, but we want a nice full body. I'm going to counter rib that hackle. And I'm really yanking on this. Again, I really want to suck that hackle into the body. Tag there. Okay, now when I trim this hackle off, I'm not going to cut it off right at the edge of the body. I'm actually going to take my scissors and slide my scissors down there and then trim it off and leave just a little tag in. That'll help with the durability on that and keeping that hackle from just getting yanked out of there. And we'll go ahead and comb this out. All right. Now we're going to tie in our wing. Again, when we tie this wing in, to get the effect that we're really looking for and to make this fly really fish the way it was designed to fish, you want to make sure and layer that wing also. It's just a little bit mousy. And I'm going to use just a little bit fluffier hackle on the front for this wing. I don't want it quite as wispy as the tail was. So we get a nice little clump there. And when we tie this in, we want it to come back just past the body. So we're just like right almost to the bend of the hook. And when I tie this in, I'm going to line it up. One more turn, then I'm going to take my thumb and I'm going to kind of spread that out across the top of the body. Again, this fly is really all about the layering to give us the effect that we want. And we're going to tie in our crystal flash. Take this and whip it over. So get 6 strands out of this. For all purposes, this doesn't have a lot of flash in it. But again, I kind of designed it that way. I want it to be not too invasive, fairly subtle. Piece off there. Then we'll tie in our second half of our wing. It's really imperative that you really choose your marabou wisely too. Use highest quality materials are just going to make the fly last that much longer. So this second wing is just a little bit sparser. We're just going to tie that in again so it's just a little bit back, falls maybe like right to the edge of the body. Give us a nice layer that'll really add to the movement of this fly. And the same thing, we're just going to kind of spread that out a little bit. We'll trim our marabou off. Go down to the eye of the hook. And then back. And then for our hackle, for our head, that's what makes this fly so unique, is that it's a hackle-headed fly. We're going to use a really webby, big saddle hackle. We want to make sure that it's long enough, and I'm really cranking on this thing to make sure that it's not going to break on me. So I'm going to come right back to the edge of the duff there, and that's where we're going to start. So we'll trim that off there. You want to make sure that we're right back to the edge. There we go, right there. I'm going to tie that hackle in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take just a little tiny bit of dubbing on there, and we're going to go back up here, and I'm just going to put just a teeny bit of dubbing down, and what that'll do is it'll give that hackle something to bite down into, and again it'll help protect that hackle because we're going to do a full palmered head on this. That's what makes this fly so unique and gives it so much movement. So we get that on. We're not going to tease this out. Just going to make sure that's nice and flat. And you want to grab a hold of that wing and make sure that it's straight and you're not pulling it that direction as your palmer and your hackle. We're going to tie this in just like we would a steelhead fly. So we're just going to keep folding this back and stacking it right edge to edge. Make sure that you're not pinching those fibers on that hackle down and they're matted in there. We want to get as much that hackle poking out there. That's what's going to give us our movement. This is my go-to streamer pattern. If I only had one streamer to fish with, I think it would be this fly. I fish this in the lakes with both full sinking lines and my clear camo line, my intermediate sinking. It also fishes really well with a dry line with a split shot in front of it. You can see we didn't put a lot of weight on this, but it's just taken a bunch of species of fish already, and it's just 4 years old. We're going to just go right down to the eye of the hook. We really want to stack this in there. This is going to give us a really nice full head. When we run out of room there, we're just going to take a couple of turns, tie that down, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this and just pop it a little bit, and that'll kind of make that hackle stick up. We want to make sure that we've got it kind of poking up like that. So when we tie this down, we don't want to pull it one direction or the other. We're just going to pull straight back, and then we're just going to do a couple of wraps across the face of that, and then we're just going to whip finish it off. Alright, so trim the rest of that feather off of there. Now what I'm going to do is we're going to take our brush again, and I'm going to brush this out and back. Then I'll show you how to trim the head on this thing. So first thing we're going to do is, I'm just going to pop that thing a little little bit. We're going to take our scissors, and actually what I'm doing is I'm not really going to be cutting. I'm just going to kind of pull the scissors through this and go right flat down the body. Purpose for this is twofold. One of it is to give us the effect when we're fishing the fly, how it's going to make the fly swim. And secondly, we're trimming it to give it a natural food shape. If you look at this fly, and you're immediately going to think sculpin, but with the shape of the fly and the right color, this could also be a crawdad, a leech, a minnow. When I'm tying this in white and lighter colors, I'll leave that on the bottom and I'll trim the sides to give it that flat effect, more built like a minnow. But in the right color, this looks a lot like a crawdad, a lot like a leech. Of course, it looks like a sculpin, and it's a great sculpin imitation. But it's just a food fly. It's just a big meal, and I believe that the fish take it for a myriad of different food items that are in the water. So when we get to that point, now we're going to start working across the face of the fly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start in close, and I'm not cutting a lot of this off. I'm just trimming off just a little bit, but you can see I'm starting to add some of that bullet shape to the head. And again, this is twofold. This is to give it the food look that I'm looking for, but it's also to help the fly swim properly in the water. So we're getting the profile that we're looking for, and we're also getting the fly to swim the way we want it to. Doesn't hurt to have a pair of scissors with you when you're out on the water. And if you notice the fly just doesn't seem to be fishing right, i.e. catching fish, you might trim the head up a little bit more and see if you can get it to swim a little bit different. I want to leave I don't want to trim this down too thin. I want to leave as much bulk to it as I can, because again, it's just going to add more movement to the fly. You can always take more off, but you can't add any on, so it's something to keep in mind. You might mess a few up before you kind of get it down. It doesn't trim quite like deer hair. I tied so many muddlers when I was younger. I'm just trying to avoid the deer hair at all costs, and you're not going to get the movement out of the deer hair like you will the hackle, and that was really the premise behind it, was movement. When I'm designing, I'm always looking to get the maximum amount of movement into a fly that I possibly can. So there it is, the double bug. Like I said, we're going to put a little bit of cement on there. Actually, I'm going to use some UV. This is the Solar Ease. This has a really nice little applicator brush on it. Wasn't much of a fan of the UV until I found this product. So we'll just put a little dab of that on there. At the end of the video here, we have a little on the water snippet for you with a little double bug action. There we go. This is the Headless Fly Fisherman. Stay tuned. Got some other great videos coming up, some more radical twist patterns. Really appreciate your interest and your views. Oh, it's just going off. This is the third one I hooked. This same fly. This one is black and olive, not black and brown. Just got the other one just obliterated. Double bug, size 8. Nice rainbow. He's hot, ready to go. Just a missile. Headless Fly Fisherman. Keeping them wet. Have a good fall.